Last week's killing of 8 people in the Atlanta area, including 6 Asian American women, has raised the ugly specter of anti-Asian hate to a level that's got much of the world taking notice. As one of the victims was a South Korean citizen and 3 others were of Korean descent, there's been an outpouring of grief around 11,500 kilometers away, here in South Korea, and a further dampening of the American dream. Now, there's been a lot of commentary about what motivated the killer. One can't help but question the political leanings of those who've been so quick to find any factor but race. Whatever the case, it is part of a broader rise in reported violence against people of Asian descent in the US and beyond since the COVID-19 pandemic started last year. Not to say that the roots of racism weren't there already, but the so-called Chinese virus has apparently encouraged more open expressions of it. South Korea's Foreign Minister Eui-yong recently told reporters, while standing alongside his American counterpart Antony Blinken, "It is our utmost interest to seek the safety of those Koreans living in the US." Later, US President Joe Biden admitted hate crimes against Asian Americans have been skyrocketing. He added, "Our silence is complicity. We cannot be complicit. We have to speak out. We have to act." And, on the plus side, there's been an upsurge in support for that sentiment from all ethnicities. But what can be done? Like other Asian Americans, prominent actor Daniel Dae Kim's called for better education and support for local communities. He testified before US Congress at the end of last week, listing some of the most egregious and graphic crimes among thousands of incidents targeting people of Asian descent in the US since last March. In fact, he also addressed Congress last September when the House passed a resolution calling on all public officials to condemn and denounce anti-Asian sentiment, racism, discrimination, and religious intolerance related to COVID-19, as well as demanding action by federal law enforcement, state, and local officials. Daniel Dae Kim admitted he was disheartened that though the resolution passed, 164 members of Congress still voted against it. He reflected that the situation has even become much worse since then. He lamented that Asian Americans are considered statistically insignificant in many election polls, that the tag of model minority is misleading. But then he also cautioned lawmakers that Asians are America's fastest growing racial demographic. That looming change, diverse as that demographic is, adds another dimension to a complex climate in which there's a lingering atmosphere of suspicion and hatred directed towards China, even with the transfer of power from Donald Trump to Joe Biden. As well as tackling base racism in all its forms, if the US sees itself as leading the free world in this Cold War-esque standoff, it also has the responsibility to protect its potential victims at home.